It is Friday, December 23rd, 2022, and I want to talk about Harry and Meghan. Um, I don't know if you've watched the six-part documentary series. I did. I like Harry. I want to like Meghan. I've had a really hard time. I keep trying, and I get to points when it's like, God, you just don't seem genuine. And but I'm trying. And so I watched the first episode, and it was about Harry and sort of his trajectory. The second one is mostly about Meghan, and I was less interested. And the third one was more getting into sort of the royal contract stuff. And then the last three, they really focused on how this all fell apart for them, between them and the royal family. I guess between her and her family, and then his family. And it's the one thing that the media, they focus on, just the accusations of racism within the royal family, and sort of some scandalous bits. But what the media isn't focusing at all on is that she lost her dad and her family through this process, and now ultimately he's lost his. And the primary responsibility for that is the media, and the way that they talk about and cover this couple. Now, um, the people are gonna, I know people are gonna be like, oh, they should be used to it. They're a royal family. That's, but he didn't ask for this. He was born into it. And this is the first generation of royals that are born into a paparazzi kind of mentality. I know it existed before, not in the way that it does today. So from from the womb, um, he's been part of something that belonged to the public, or something that the public believed that they owned. Um, and I've never heard anyone go into the sort of the contract between the British press and the royal family, and what they called the rota, I think, about the half a dozen papers and the journalists within those we still call them newspapers, but they're news outlets, I guess, and news is used very loosely in some of them. Um, and the reciprocal sort of agreement they have. I know it's been talked about before, that in smatterings of ways, and how the royal family and the press use each other. I've never seen it described in quite this specific of a manner, that it's basically a contract. And I do understand where the British people may feel like, we pay for your existence, we subsidize your lifestyle, you do owe us. I get where that comes from, but they don't owe them everything. And I think that was, it started to come up with Diana. She manipulated her own press coverage uh, as she was trying to get out of that situation. But she knew there was only so much she could do and how far she could take it. And without the protection of the royal family, um, not wanting to piss them off enough, or piss them off too much. And it feels like Harry sort of inherited that with less less of a concern by the end of it about, I just don't care if I piss you off anymore, because I'm trying to protect my family and you're screwing me over. Um, the relentless um, stories about her, that, and if you watch this documentary and they put these things side by side, and I remember it happening, but I don't, it really highlights the degree to which she was treated differently for doing the exact same things that other royals did. Um, and the only thing that's different is race, which Harry says a couple of times. Um, it, and the problem was, they were too popular. They were doing charity work together. And their wedding, and it got to be, and I remember these stories. It was like, oh, let's just skip everybody else and let Harry be king. And I think it pissed off part of the family. that they were literally the crown prince and princess. Um, and that's when the stories started to shift, and they started to attack her so heavily. Um, you know, the thing that happened with her father is that um, the media got to him and said, "We want stories. We'll pay you," and he fell for it. That sucks. That's to be, um, uh, to have someone turn on you, specifically a parent, and betray you that hard, just for some cash is really, um, it's. I mean, it's devastating. It's beyond disappointing, and so that's a relationship that just has to end, because you're living your life this publicly, and you can't have someone working against you that hard, especially someone who's supposed to have some credibility because they're your parent. Um, and then, and his side of it is, I'm not playing this game anymore. When they moved to Canada, and then, once the press found out where they were, and the palace wouldn't protect them, and like, I get it. His mother was killed by this kind of chase, and he didn't want to see it for his family. You got to respect the fact that he stood up to the family, the institution, which they call it the institution quite freely and openly. It is a business, and um, somewhere in there, there's a talk about, this is the where um, where family is in direct competition with the family business. Um, and there's a turning point in the press when they were trying to get help, and trying to get their side of the story out while they were still in part of the institution, and the institution said no, and Megan was like, I'm not just being um, left to the wolves, I'm being fed to them. They're actually providing these stories to the press about me. So I can't blame them for getting out, and I think it takes a lot of courage and strength to do it. um you know People want to bitch about their comfort, or discomfort, or sense of trauma, or you, you know yes, he's literally a prince, and he grew up with a lot of trappings of wealth. He also grew up with a lot of responsibilities, and a lot of eyeballs on him. um, he also, had his mother killed very violently, at a very young age. I don't really think anybody should be ever. You shouldn't really ever be comparing trauma. That's not a thing that just because um, it- you know just because your arm is broken, it doesn't mean my toe doesn't hurt. Um, or other way around. Just because my arm is broken, it doesn't mean your toe doesn't hurt. Anyway, so they're not poor. Um, and this whole she's made a lot of money in a television career. He's got Diana's money. They're still doing charity work, and they want to have a comfortable life for their family. So they made a deal to tell their side of the story. And this isn't an invitation to come hide in the bushes, and I want you to know everything that I do all day long, and what kind of eggs I have in the morning. This is the narrative that's been told for the last 5 years is wrong, and we want to set it straight. And by the end of it, it was like, okay, Megan, I get it. Um, I think I don't think I put together all the things that happened along the way, in a way that it's presented in this documentary. And obviously, they have a hand in what that narrative is. But I don't think they said anything that wasn't true. And I think they did a tremendous job of being able to take that narrative back and say, this is what happened to us. And here's a lot of things that you never saw. And this is why we made the choices that we did. And now they can, you know, go do whatever they want to do, wherever the hell they live. But, you know, mostly, you know, I still just wanna be Harry's friend.